Hello everyone, welcome back to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi, dated 1st July 2024. Today again we will be discussing some important topics that has appeared in today's The Hindu and The Indian Express newspapers which are very relevant for your exam. In our first topic, we'll look into various aspects of 7th schedule, particularly in context of ongoing debate that whether education should be brought back to the state list or not. In our second topic, we'll look into various aspects of right against adverse effect of climate change. Then in our third topic, we'll look into various aspects of forest fire, particularly in the region of Binsar Wildlife Sanctuary. After that, we'll look into an important geophysical phenomena, that is avalanche. After that, we'll look into various criteria that are required to get national political party status. At the end, we will look into some prelim snippets which will help you in excelling your prelims exam. So stay tuned. Our first topic is education and 7th schedule. The context of this topic is that a write-up has appeared in one of the leading newspapers which is focusing on need to bring back education in the state list. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2, federalism and center-state relation. So why this debate have started in our society? It is because of the ongoing NEET UG controversy where there has been several allegations that the NEET UG exams has been leaked. Apart from this, the UGC NET exam was also postponed, and all these exams are conducted by a central public examination authority which is NTA or National Testing Agency. So that's where this debate has started, whether we should bring back the education as a subject from concurrent list to state list, and that can lead to addressing these particular issues which are ongoing in these days. So let's try to understand the historical background of education as a subject in all the three lists. What happened? By Government of India Act 1935, it led to division of the legislative powers, and the three lists were provided by this particular act. One was the federal list, where central government have a complete control to legislate, it was the complete domain of central government. Then there was the provincial list and concurrent list. So education was kept under the provincial list, and it continued after the independence also, where the education was again kept under the state list. The domain of state was there to legislate on all the subjects related to the education. But what happened? In year 1975-1976, a committee was formed, that is Swarn Singh Committee. It have recommended that education should be kept under the concurrent list from the state list. And by 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976, which have changed various provisions of our constitution, it have also taken back the subject of education from the state list to the concurrent list. So after 42nd amendment, the education as a subject is in the concurrent list. What happened in the 1978, the Janata Party government which came with as a head, Morarji Desai was the Prime Minister. He modified the various changes that were done earlier by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, and he brought back 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978. So he have tried to modify various changes that were done by the earlier amendment, 42nd amendment. But he could not bring back the education into the state list because this could not be passed in the Rajya Sabha. So what are the various provisions related to the 7th schedule? Under the article 246, it provides for the division of power between the center and the states. So here we have the central government's union list, the state government's state list, and the concurrent list. Under the union list, we have almost 100 subjects. Subjects like defense, banking, currency, foreign affairs, communication, which are very pivotal, which are very prime for the sovereignty, integrity, and security of the India, are kept under the union list. Then we have 61 subjects in our state list. Subjects like police, trade, agriculture, and irrigation are kept under the state list. Under the concurrent list, we have subjects like education, for forest, trade, marriage, adoption, etc., where both the central government and the state government have the right to legislate on these subjects under the concurrent list. The 42nd Amendment Act 1976, which we have just talked, has shifted the 5 subjects to the concurrent list from the state list. And what were those subjects? It was education, forest, protection of wild animals and birds, weights and measures, and administration of justice, constitution, and the organization of all court except the Supreme Court and the High Court. So some of the exceptions related to the this 7th schedule or article 246 is that Article 249, where when the Rajya Sabha passes the resolution to legislate any subject in the state list, then the parliament become empowered to legislate on any subject given in the state list. Then during a national emergency under Article 352, the parliament also gets empowered to legislate on various provisions, various subjects in the state list. After that, when two or more states pass a resolution and they request the parliament to legislate on a subject in the state list, then also the parliament becomes empowered to legislate on that subject. This concurrent list, which we have 52 subjects, is the concept that we have borrowed from the Australia. Now, should education be brought back to the state list? Let's try to look into some of the international practices which are there. First is the United States, where the state and local government look for overall education standards, and the central governments or the federal government have only responsibilities of providing the education funding, whether it is primary education, secondary education, or the higher educations. Whereas if we look into the Canada, the complete management is with the provinces. There is no interference by the central government. If we look into the case of Germany, there are landers which are the state governments there, provincial governments there. They have the complete right to look for the various aspects of the education. So what are the various pros of keeping this education as a subject in the concurrent list? First of all, it will help in ensuring there is a uniform education policy throughout the 28 states and 8 union territories. It will not create any difference, where it will also help in improving the standards, the standard that is required as per the demand of industry. Okay, for example, the demand of industry is artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, all these things. So when a policy is made by the central government, it will help in ensuring that whatever the technological upgradation is happening, that is also reflected in the educational curriculum throughout all the states and the union territories. Apart from this, it will also help in ensuring that there is synergy between the center and the states. There are no differences. For example, national education policy which came, it has helped in synergy and the proper coordination between various center and the states in matter of the education. Then it will also help in focusing on the special needs, whether those needs are of the disabled persons, women, children, etc. All those can be addressed. For example, central government has provided right to education under Article 21A. All these have a lot of bearing on the ensuring proper primary, secondary education in the various parts of our country. Then under the state list, we have generally there is an issue that there are allegations, some experts believe that there are lack of professionalism in there, lot of corruptions etc. are there. For example, this is a report which said that the corruption is there in the permanent faculty recruitment in the Indian state universities. Apart from this, states also are suffering from lot of absenteeism, particularly in the teachers' attendance. Then there are a lot of vacancies in the various higher education institutions which are looked after the state governments. Then there is lack of proper infrastructure, where no proper labs, classrooms are available. So all these leads to a case where it is generally believed that state governments are not well equipped to look after the education. Then the job recruitment exams which are conducted by the various bodies which have been constituted by the state governments. For example, the state public service commissions, then state subordinate public service subordinate public service commissions in various states. There has been a cases that multiple exams are getting leaked one after one, where the state public examination authorities are conducting those exams. So that shows that the state governments are not well equipped to look after the education, and it is better when it is placed in the concurrent list. Now let's look into the other side, or the flip side, that why education should be brought back to the state list from the concurrent list. The first and important reason is the vast diversity that we have in the various 28 states and 8 union territories, starting from Jammu Kashmir to Kanyakumari and Gujarat to Arunachal Pradesh. We have different states and we have this cultural diversity, linguistic diversity, which requires for a different needs, different approach, and this one size fits all approach, which is majorly the focus by the central governments, may not be very feasible and desirable in the long run. Then if we'll keep it into the state list, it will also help us in addressing the local needs, where the educational policy, the educational curriculum that is made is catering to the local needs. For example, the curriculum may be available in the local language, where our students will much more be comfortable in reading, writing and understanding in the local language, and it can help in better equipping those students to understand those concepts, important concepts, and in longer run it can help in fostering the culture of innovation. More research and development can happen. Then if we analyze the budget expenditure on the education which was given by the Ministry of Education in 2022, the total revenue expenditure which has been done in the education sector was almost 6.25 lakh crore for 2021. Then the 15% have came from the center and only 85% have came from the states, which shows that even the funding is majorly coming from the state governments only. But if we all consider all other departments on education and training, whatever the expenditures are happening for the department, managerial activities, training for teachers, etc., even then the center is only spending 24% and 76% is still spent by the state governments, which shows that this is highly skewed towards the state government, where the state government is the major funder of the education. So this brings us towards the point that when state government is giving most of the funding, then why shouldn't be they given more autonomy in matter of education? Then there is need for a productive discussion where we should consult all the stakeholders that are there in place, and that will help us in tailoring our policy according to the needs of the local people, according to the needs of the local citizens. So there is need for capacity building also of the state government, so that they can be better equipped to deal with the various challenges that are arising, particularly in the education sector. So what can happen for the way forward, that after the discussions we can provide some more autonomy to the states, but the regulatory mechanism, especially in the higher education sector, should be with the central institutions only, like the UGC or the University Grant Commission, National Medical Commission, etc. Our second topic is right against climate change, or right against adverse effect of climate change. The context of this topic is that a write-up has appeared analyzing the various facets of right against climate change. This topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 3, conservation, environmental pollution and degradation. So let's try to understand the background of this topic, that from where it has originated in India. In MK Ranjit Singh and others versus Union of India and others case, Supreme Court have said that the right to be free from the adverse effect of climate change is an important inherent right of the citizens of India, and they have derived it from the right to life, which is provided under Article 21 of the Constitution of India, and right to equality, which is provided under the Article 14 of the Constitution of India. The Supreme Court said that the source for right against the adverse effect of climate change is being derived from the Article 21, right to life, and Article 14, right to equality. The issue with the Supreme Court was that there was a electricity transmission infrastructure that was being built, and it was going through a habitat of the critically endangered great Indian bustard species. So government have said that the protecting the birds' habitat might affect the renewable energy potential target achievement by India. And that's why they need to be more focused toward building that electricity transmission infrastructure. So Supreme Court have given a modified order where they said that government is right in prioritizing the transmission infrastructure building. But if this has started the debate that whether this right against the adverse effect of climate change can be an important inherent right. If answer is yes, if it has been given, then it may create a potential that can open door for the climate change litigation in future. And the courts, which are already burdened with so much of cases that more than 4 crore cases are pending in India as per the data of National Judicial Grid. So these courts might get more burdened with the climate change related litigations. The Ranjit Singh judgment have also emphasized on one other point, that the low carbon energy future is an imperative which is highly required for the meeting the net zero targets in the future. So what is the significance of ruling? The significance is that it recognizes the vulnerability of Indians towards the climate change. If we look into this data which is provided by the Indian Meteorological Department, it shows that from 1901 to 2021 there is a consistent rise in the temperature, which shows that there is an important need to bring our focus towards the global warming climate change related issues. If we also look into this graph, this shows that from 1901 to 2002 we have increased frequency of cyclonic storms in India, where the one of the prime reason for that is the rising global temperature. Then if we look into this data that is provided by the National Disaster Management Authority, it also says that there has been a consistent increase in the various heat waves related deaths in India. That is also emphasized on the point that there is very important need to recognize the vulnerability that Indians are facing, particularly with relation to the climate change. And that brings us towards the point that there is a need for right against the adverse effect of the climate change. Then it also helps the reiteration of Indians' commitment to the climate justice. People who are getting affected, they can get proper justice in due time if this right is provided to the citizens. It also makes the issue of the climate change a part of public discourse. As of now, people have much more emphasis on other points. They are very less interested in climate related talks. And when this will be provided as a right, it will be a public discourse. There will be more deliberation discussion that will go on, and ultimately it will help in ensuring that a climate just society is made. The other significances of ruling are that it will help in addressing the economic loss. As per the data of Reserve Bank of India, from 2030 to 2050, we might have almost 9.8% GDP loss due to the climate change. And that is the cost of climate change in GDP. So if we will provide this right against the adverse effect of climate change, that may address this issue of the economic loss that we might have to bear in future due to the climate change related issues. Then it also recognizes the vulnerability of Indians towards the climate change. This is the data that has been compiled by the Indian Meteorological Department. It shows that India is the most vulnerable to the climate change. And there has been a consistent increase in the various incidences of droughts, incessant rainfalls, floods, cyclones, etc. And that leads to effects on the various other sectors also. For example, the agriculture has to suffer a lot of loss due to climate change related issues. Then it also opens the door for constitution courts for the environmental jurisprudence. What happens? The people who will be suffering from the environmental changes, climate change related issues, they might get to the courts, they might get some relief from the courts in form of various compensation, etc. And so this might provide some help, some compensation to the vulnerable people, vulnerable sections like farmers, etc. It will also help in creating necessary institutions which can help in deliberative governance, where a governance can happen where more of the discussions are going on between the public, between the central government, state government, various NGOs, civil society organizations and others. So this brings us towards the point that there is a need for climate change law in India. But we already have various laws like Environmental Protection Act 1986, okay, Air Pollution and Control Act, Water Pollution and Control Act. But there is lack of a comprehensive law that can address the various issues that are being faced due to the climate change related events. And that is where we need a comprehensive law that can address the broader aspects of the climate change. What are those broader aspects? That we build sustainable cities, buildings and the transportation, where we can provide climate resilient agriculture, where there are protection of the ecosystems, and there are also social equity considerations. Means that law is addressing all the issues of all the sections of the society, whether they are farmers, whether they are tribals, whether they are children, whether they are women. Everyone's the needs are catered through this law. And that is where we need a comprehensive law. But we need an enabling law rather than a regulating law. The enabling law will encourage the low carbon and climate resilient development across the sectors. Enabling law will help us that proper deliberation discussions are going on. This law keeps on changing as per the changing needs of the society. It addresses the actual needs of the society rather than being a punitive measure, rather than being a punishment kind of act. And that will also focus on the creating institutions, processes and the standards, that they will help in ensuring that there is a proper institution is made that is addressing all the issues of the people who are getting affected, that is providing all the processes, that what should be the way forward, what should be the standing operating procedure while dealing with the climate change related events, and it will properly help the people who are getting affected through the climate change related issues. Then this enabling law will emphasize on both the adaptation and the mitigation strategies that are also being focused by the National Disaster Management Authority through the Disaster Management Act. It will also enable the knowledge sharing, transparency and the public participation and the expert consultation. That this is what I was focusing, that when a regulating law is there, it mostly focus on providing the punishment, giving for the actions that might we have to take when someone is violating any environmental law. But isn't we also need to provide a law which is providing proper adaptation and mitigation strategies, addressing all the issues that are being faced by the people who are getting affected? And that's where this enabling law will come, which will share knowledge between different communities. For example, there might be some traditional knowledge by some tribal community which can provide some better dealing with any climate change related events. So if there will be a mechanism for the knowledge sharing by the institutions that will be built by this enabling law, that can better equip us to deal with any climate change related events. While having this law, we will also have to address the various federalism related challenges. Particularly, we have to focus on the cooperative federalism, where central and state governments are properly cooperating with each other. And this will also help in providing a national framework for climate actions, which can be deliberated, discussed with both the central and state government stakeholders, and we can develop a proper framework, national framework, which should be applicable to all the states. And then there is also need to decentralized power to state and the local governments. Why I am emphasizing in this point is that the urban local bodies and the panchayats are one of the grassroots democratic decentralization units. When these will be better equipped, it will help in properly implementation of this enabling law, comprehensive law that we are making to address the climate change related events. Why? Because these ULBs and the panchayats are those grassroots level institutions which are addressing the various issues like flood management, providing help in the cyclones, droughts, wastewater management. So there is need to bring them on board to better implementation of these laws. Then there is also need for providing these governments with necessary information and financial resources. Proper funding, proper budgetary allocation can be done to better equip these panchayats and the municipalities. Then there is also need to provide proper information and training to these institutions at the regular interval of time. Then we should also have an enabling role of stakeholders, where various parts of the society, business, civil society organization, communities, valuable knowledge should be contributed. For example, if a business entity or the private organization which is polluting the waters, there is need for better deliberation with them to understand that why they are not following the water treatment measures. And then we can provide them some capacity building some hand holding, and where this problem of water pollution, that the polluted water that are coming from the industries, can be better dealt with, rather than only taking punitive measures on these industries. And that is where we need a proper stakeholders cooperation, collaboration between all the dimensions of the society, all the aspects of the society, whether it is non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, state government, central government, businesses, or the individuals. And that can help us in providing a inclusive and sustainable society, and as well as inclusive and sustainable India. Next is Sanctuary on Fire. The context of this topic is that a lead editorial in one of the leading newspapers have highlighted various issues and the solution to address the issue of the forest fire. This topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2, Government Policies and Interventions, syllabus of your GS paper 3, Environmental Pollution and Degradation. So let's try to understand the background of this topic. But before going to this, this topic is mainly focusing on the forest fire that is there in the Binsar Wildlife Sanctuary. So let's look into the basic detail about the Binsar Wildlife Sanctuary. This is named after the Bindeswar Mahadev temple, an ancient Hindu rock temple dedicated to Lord Shiva, and it is situated on the highest point of this sanctuary. This sanctuary offers the breathtaking panoramic view. It is located in the district of Almora in the Kumaon region of the state of Uttarakhand. Okay, you can see here. And it was once the summer capital of the Chand dynasty, which ruled Kumaon from 11th to 18th century AD. So now move towards the issue of forest fire. So what is forest fire? It is an unplanned, uncontrolled and unpredictable fire in an area which have a combustible vegetation. There are three things that are mainly required for the fire. One is oxygen, that is in ample amount in the forest region. Then the heat that can be provided by any natural sources like lightning, etc., or by some anthropogenic sources, where some of the negligent behavior of some people that throwing the bidi or the cigarette butts in the forest region can lead to providing of the heat in the forest region. Then the fuel, the dry leaves, litter that are there in the forest region, that can easily provide the fuel to the forest fires. All these three can lead to very alarming conditions of the forest fires. If you look into this data, some of the areas which are highly vulnerable to the forest fires are areas in the northeast region, then some of the regions in the Himalayas of the Uttarakhand, Himachal, etc., and then some of the regions of the central governments. As per the data of ISFR 2021, the 35.47% of the total forest cover is prone to the forest fire in India. Now, a question that I want to ask to you people is that which is the authority, which is the body that releases this ISFR report, and does this report released twice a year, thrice a year, or every 5 years? So two questions: which is the institution or the body that released the ISFR report, and with how many frequency of the years does this report comes? So let's look into the various causes of the forest fires. First are the natural causes. As I have said, the weather conditions, particularly the aridity condition or the arid condition, that provides the proper environment to get caught of fire. Apart from this, the lightning conditions, that can also provide as a natural cause of the forest fire. Then the dry biomass availability, particularly in the month of the summers, etc., where we have ample amount of dry leaves and dry litters, and that can also lead to lot of forest fires. Then the anthropogenic causes, the human carelessness or the human negligence that we have said, is the throwing away of the cigarette or the BD buds, going to camp, and we did not douse that fire completely, which we have used for the cooking purposes, etc. All these can lead to ultimately a very abysmal condition of the forest fires. Then the agricultural practices like jhum cultivation, which are majorly followed in the northeastern region, that can also lead to forest fires. What happens in the jhum cultivation? People, especially the primitive peoples, burn some of the forest land and to make them available for the agricultural practices. But some of the times what happens, those forest fires gets uncontrollable and it can lead to forest fires in the whole region. So what are the challenges witnessed during the Binsar forest fire or the Binsar wildlife sanctuary fire? First was the siloed governance, that there was lack of coordination between different agencies, whether it is the state police, whether it is the disaster management authority, state disaster management authority, or the environment department. There was a siloed governance where there was no coordination between the different agencies, and it led to leading larger time to douse that fire because there was no coordination between the different agencies. Then the insufficient trained manpower, and moreover there are lot of absenteeism, vacancies in the forest fire departments. So, and these people are not trained properly to address such a high scale of such a high frequency of the forest fires, and they also do not have proper equipments. That we would have seen that there have been instances where they are still following some of the traditional methods. But in the cases of forest fires, especially in the Himalayan region, it becomes very difficult to douse a fire, to control a fire with the traditional methods. And that is also one issue that is highlighted by the expert who have written this editorial, that these personals were not equipped, not trained properly to address this scale of forest fire. Then the poor infrastructure, particularly the roads that were connecting those forest fire regions, were in very poor condition, and that has also increased the time in which the proper support can reach to those forest fire regions. Then the disgruntled villagers, the villagers who are at the ground level, who have a better knowledge of the incidences of the forest fires, with whom we can provide a better help to the people on the various officers, various people who are going to tackle the forest related incidences. But these villages were disgruntled, means they were not incentivized to help. And that is where there was lack of cooperation or lack of proper help from the villagers, and that has also led to a greater time to douse those fires, to control those forest fires. And it had led to lot of bioecological hazards. For example, it has impacted the biodiversity, where it have harmed the flora and fauna, various plant and animal species, and it had led to lot of pollution also. For example, in Uttarakhand, concentration of black carbon is up from 1000 to 2000 milligram per meter cube in March to 10,000 to 12,000 milligram per meter cube in the April month, whereas the safe range is only 3,000 to 4,000 milligram per meter cube. And that shows us to the level, to the scale in which the forest fire was there, because it have led to an alarming level of pollution in the Uttarakhand region. So what are the various recommendations for improving the situation? First is there is need for strengthening the inter-agency coordination, where there should also be a proper oversight mechanism. Here the coordination should be between various wings of the state government. whether it is the police department, firefighting department, district disaster management authority, or the home department. Apart from this, there should be also proper coordination with the national disaster management authority, central government authorities, and there should also be some kind of mechanism where proper oversight is being done, whether to ensure that each wing is doing their work properly. Then there is also need for investing in the training of the firefighters and also equipping them with the proper equipments to address the issue of the forest fires. For this, some of the budgetary allocation can be diverted. Then there is need for improving the infrastructure, particularly the roads and the bridges, etc., so that a better connectivity is there and the support that is going to address the issue of forest fire can reach in proper time. Then there is also need for re-establishing the incentive programs to encourage the local participation. This can be either in the cash or in kind, where some kind of benefits can be provided in form of any other scheme, or some of the schemes which are already ongoing, some increase can be there in those schemes. And this will, when we will leveraging these valuable knowledge that the local people have, that the primitive people have, that can, this experience that local villagers have, that can help us in better equipping us to address the issue of forest fire. So our next topic is avalanche. The context of this topic is that massive avalanche hit the Gandhi Sarovar, which is located 4 kilometers above the Kedarnath Dham. This topic pertains to syllabus of your UPSC Prelims, Indian Geography, syllabus of your GS Paper 1, Geographical Features and their Location, and syllabus of your GS Paper 3, Disaster Management. So let's try to understand the basic. When a mass of snow, rock, ice, soil and other materials slide rapidly down a mountain slide, it is called as the avalanche. Avalanches of rock or soil is called as landslide, while snow slides are common kind of avalanche. So let's suppose this is a mass of snow that is located on top of a mountain. When it is sliding down towards the lower levels and it is also getting some of rocks, ice or the soil, it is called as avalanche. But when this material which is coming from the upper side to the lower side, when that is mainly the rocks or soil, that will be called as landslide. But when that will be majorly the snow or the ice, it will be called as avalanche. The mechanism by which it comes is that when unstable mass of snow breaks away from a slope and picks up speed and more snow as it moves downhill. So here this mass of snow was there which break away from its initial mass of snow, and now it is coming down and it have brought some other snow ice with themselves, and it produces a river of snow and a cloud of icy particles that rise high into the air. So this kind of pictures can be there when avalanches kind of incidents happen. Now let's look into what are the different types of avalanche. First is the slough avalanche, which is a small slide of dry powdery snow that occurs when the weak layer of snowpack is on the top. When there is a weak layer on the top and when it is coming down, and it is mainly in the dry and powdery form, it is the slough avalanche. Whereas in a slab avalanche, the weak layer lies lower down in a snowpack, and when it breaks off, it pulls all the layers on the top of it down and the slope. When there is a slab, completely one layer which has broke off from that top of the mountain, it have came with all the upper layers also. So this is kind of condition where complete slab is breaking off from that snow mountain. What are the different factors that leads to avalanche? First is the fresh snowfall, which adds to a new layer of the snowpack. This can increase the weight of that snowpack and ultimately that can come down. Then the natural forces like pulls of gravity on a steep side and the earthquakes that can lead to some of the seismic activities and can lead to avalanches. Then the warming temperature, which weakens the bond between different layers that are there in the snowpack. Then the human activity like construction, developmental activities that can lead to some of the seismic changes and obviously can lead to the condition like avalanche. Next is national party status. The context of this topic is that a major political party which has national party status might lose its status after the recent performance in the Lok Sabha elections. This topic pertains to syllabus of your GS Paper 2, Transparency and Accountability and Representation of People's Act. So, how is a party's status decided? A party needs to fulfill the following condition to get a national or state tag. First of all, for a national states, a party should secure at least 6% of votes that are polled in 4 or more states in the Lok Sabha or the Assembly elections, and in addition, it should have at least 4 members in the Lok Sabha. Whereas it should have at least 2% of the total Lok Sabha seats and have candidates from not less than 3 states. And other condition is that it is recognized as the state party in at least 4 states. Then it can get the status of the national party. Various benefits that it can get is that common party symbol across the states. They don't have to fight for the symbols. Whatever the symbol that will be there. For example, lotus is symbol of the Bharatiya Janata Party, that is across the different states because it have a national party status. Then the free airtime during the elections on the public broadcasters. It will also have a space for a party office in the New Delhi. For getting a state tag, voter in the assembly polls, the party must get at least 6% of the votes and win at least 2 seats in the assembly election. It gets at least 6% of votes polled and has at least 1 MP in the Lok Sabha, then it can get the state party status tag. Then it has at least 3% of votes or 3 MLAs in assembly, whichever is more, then also it can get the state party status. The party has at least 1 Lok Sabha member or every 25 assembly members or any fraction thereof allotted to the state, and it has at least 8% of the total valid votes polled in the state in the previous election to the Lok Sabha or assembly in the state. Then if these conditions are getting followed, that party can get the status of state party in India. Various national party like Congress, which was established in year 1885 by A.O. Hume, then BJP, which was founded by Syama Prasad Mukherjee, and some other parties. Now in 2024 prelims, which have recently concluded, there was a question where the party and its leader or the founders have been asked. So here the Bharatiya Jan Sangh have its leader Syama Prasad Mukherjee, and he was the founder. Then the Socialist Party have Acharya Narendra Dev as its founding members, and Congress for Democracy Jagjeevan Ram, this was correct, and Swatantra Party have founders like C. Rajgopalachari, Minnu Masani, N.G. Ranga, among others. So 2nd and 4 option was incorrect and 1 and 3 was correct. So only 2 was the correct answer. B option was correct here. So let's move towards prelim snippets. So our first topic is meningoencephalitis, which is a rare and fatal infection of the brain and the surrounding tissues of the brain, which is caused by Naegleria fowleri, which is a free-living amoeba found in warm freshwater environments such as lakes, rivers and hot springs. And it is also known as primary amoebic meningoencephalitis or PAM. When contaminated water enters the body through nose, it allows the amoeba to travel to the brain, and it led to infection in the brain and the various tissues surrounding the brains. Some of the common areas from which it can go, for example, the people when they go for the swimming, the infections may occur if the water in the swimming pool is not properly chlorinated. Next is Great Indian Bustard, which is the heaviest flying bird on the planet, and it is the state bird of the Rajasthan. Its habitat consists of a large landscape of the dry grassland and scrub, and these are the largest among the 4 bustard species that are found in India. The protection status of Great Indian Bustard is that in the IUCN's red list, it is categorized as the critically endangered, whereas it have status of Appendix 1 in the CITES, and it is in the Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Some of the threats are the collision with the power transmissions line, hunting, and the habitat loss that is happening due to the deforestation and other issues. Next is safeguard levy. The context of this topic is that Indonesia have said that they will impose safeguard duty of almost 100% to 200% on various imports that are coming from different parts of the world, and particularly related to the industries of footwear and others. These safeguard duties or levies are the emergency measures that are used to limit the imports temporarily from the different parts of the world and for any particular sector. These are designed to safeguard the domestic industries, and as a WTO member, WTO says that if its domestic industry is injured or threatened with injury caused by a surge in imports, these safeguard levies can be imposed on the various imports coming from different parts of the country. WTO do allow this. Some of the trade remedies that are allowed by the WTO, for example, the anti-dumping duty, which is if a companies export a product at a price lower than the price it normally charge in its home market, it is said to be dumping products. Government have to establish that dumping is causing material or genuine injury to the domestic industry. For example, if this product was 100 rupees in China and it is deliberately exporting in India at a price of 70 rupees or 50 rupees, okay, which is much lower price than its domestic market, then Government of India can impose anti-dumping duty on that product. Then the countervailing duty, which is the if domestic producer are hurt by imports of a subsidized product, countervailing duty can be imposed. Here, let's suppose this was a product that was heavily subsidized by the government in that China state, then Government of India can levy the countervailing duty to address the issue of subsidized price that are there in the Chinese exports. Next is Chief Secretary of State. So whenever a Chief Secretary is appointed in a state, he or she is chosen by a Chief Minister, and the appointment letter is taken in the name of Governor of the state, as the appointment of Chief Secretary is an executive action of the Chief Minister. So you know that in the Constitution itself it says that all the executive action in a state is taken in the name of the governor. Now you tell me in your answers in the comment box that which is the article of the Constitution of India which says that all the executive actions in a state is taken in the name of the governor. Now if we talk about the position of the Chief Secretary of the state, this is the senior most position in the civil services of the states and union territory of the India. So in that particular state, he is the senior most civil servant, and this cadre post is mainly belong to the Indian Administrative Service or IAS cadre, and Chief Secretary is the chief advisor to the Chief Minister in all matters of the cabinet. He generally have no fixed tenure for this post. This is a question that was asked in 2016 prelims related to this topic, is that the Chief Secretary in a state is appointed by the governor of that state. The Chief Secretary in a state has a fixed tenure. Now what happened? There has been lot of controversy regarding the first topic, but UPSC in its official answer key have said the first option is incorrect. This option they have found out to be incorrect. So correct answer was D, neither 1 nor 2. And obviously Chief Secretary do not have a fixed tenure, so second statement was already incorrect, but there was a confusion regarding the first statement. But according to the UPSC official answer key, the first statement was also incorrect, and correct answer was here D, neither 1 nor 2. And that was all from today's session. I hope you liked the session. Wish you all the very best for your exams. Keep studying.